Um,
All right, and we're live. Today we have Mike Winnet. Now, I discovered Mike, I want to say almost 2 years ago now. It's been a while. He did an amazing video, the Contrepreneur Formula Exposed, and it was mind-blowing, well-produced, mini documentary on YouTube. Everybody should watch it, required viewing. So how are you doing today, Mike?
really good. I had some tech problems, so my sound will be all right. I'm going through a computer instead of the normal podcast studio sound setup, so I'm all right. Good.
It's not too bad. Is it one of the new Macs, the with the built-in mic?
No, really. I don't know how it works, but normally I'd be talking into my microphone and I'd listen to it in headphones. But for whatever reason, is it StreamYard you use? It doesn't seem to like working with StreamYard, so I don't know.
Very weird. Very weird. Actually, I was jealous of your setup when I saw it coming in. Now I'm like, well, maybe this isn't so bad what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, well, it's all right. You can't really see it on this camera, but yeah, it's nice. It's because we get people that come in here to produce their own podcast, so we can brand the room, we can change all the light colors, so we can brand it as anybody's. So it's nice, good setup.
Oh, very cool. I know that I actually discovered Christina Lennon through you.
Yeah, the hypnotist.
Yes, she's fantastic. Great person.
Really
and Jenny Radcliffe.
Yeah, Jenny's really good guest, actually. It's that's the best thing about making content, I think, or having a YouTube channel that's got a few followers, a few subscribers. It's a great way to meet people, that you maybe would never speak to normally, or that would share any time with you, spend any time with you. So it's been good. They're two good people that we've met through that podcast and that YouTube channel.
Well, very, 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 very true. They definitely wouldn't be talking to me. And that's why I did it. I mean, I started getting into this because I wanted to meet world-class authors. I read the books and I wanted to ask questions. How do you get to ask your questions? Well, you have to give them a reason to answer.
Yeah.
Now, going into your history, and I know you've probably told it 1,000 times, but it's always original to people. You, from what I understand, built your own online education business of sorts, or content education creation.
Yeah.
And built up a very successful business. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so it was just me and a couple of my friends in Warrington, which is near Manchester in England. We wanted a way to create what would you call it, like opportunities, and we realized that working for somebody wouldn't allow us to do that, so we decided to set up our own business. We picked the e-learning space to set up that business. We didn't have any experience in it, and we had a very clear 3-year plan to sell that business for £10 million, and we executed it after 2.5 years. So we basically made online resources. We targeted corporate companies. They could access our content, they could download that content and use it on their own learning management systems or training systems. And we kind of took the Netflix model, new content every week, cancel anytime subscription. That was never before seen in that industry, and it just took off really, really well. 2.5 years, we didn't have any investors, kind of learning on the job, and we managed to sell that business for $11.1 million 2.5 years later.
That's phenomenal. Now, is it essentially a white box type of situation?
What do you mean?
Well, okay, I'm used to the tech world, but white box is like I build a program that does this stuff, and then you can put your branding around it or whatever you want. But
it was just this is it. You put it in your own system, so it wasn't. It was purely sort of unbranded content. It was branded as ours. And they would download it and they would put it in their learning management systems. So it might be sat alongside some accredited training. It might be sat alongside some training from other providers. We just made content that worked on everybody's platform, and we made it good, or we made it better than what was out there. And then the terms of working with us, the low price point, the cancel anytime, were huge USPs at the time. The style, it was more like animated explainer videos. Really short. So instead of being like an hour-long time management course, it would be, here's a time management skill in 90 seconds. Here's a time management skill in 120 seconds. So it was like mini modules, bite-sized learning, as well as slightly longer courses. but nothing was anything over for 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh.
And we just made new content every week. Because most of the learning in life goes through experience. Most of the learning in work goes through actually experience and trying things. So why try and convince people that doing a 3-hour e-learning module is going to make you any better at that subject? So we used to market ourselves a bit differently. We used to say e-learning shit, and we know because we make it. And it really, really resonated, because no one ever, I've never heard anybody finish an e-learning course in work and say, oh my God, that was brilliant, I can't wait for the next one. So we just took that as, you don't want to be doing this training. You don't want to be doing it for 3 hours long. You'd rather be doing something else. So why would we say anything different about it? It's not the be all and end all the training. You're probably going to do far better training offline than you are going to do online. So that's kind of how we positioned ourselves, and it really ruffled a few feathers in the e-learning world, really, because it was so different to what they're used to. And a lot of companies didn't like us, but one of them companies bought us. So
you did the disruption strategy, right?
We had 2 strategies, really.
Undersold and
yeah. The strategy to exit, though, we had 2. It was, we would proactively look to partner some companies and say, look, what we do complements what you do so well. We're already working with a lot of your clients. Why don't you partner us and offer this to your clients? Which we were lucky enough that 26 learning management system providers did do. But then we would proactively look to try and take clients from other customers. From other businesses. So we would proactively say, look, if you don't buy us or don't work with us, we're going to take all your clients, because we're selling this at sort of 10% of the cost of what you're selling yours for, and we're saying you can cancel at any time. So yeah, it was almost like an aggressive strategy and a nice strategy with some people. And we knew that one of those 2 companies would buy us, and essentially it was an American-based company that bought us, and that was because they wanted exclusivity on our content in the US. That was the sort of driver for it, but we obviously couldn't do that while we partnered other companies. So we actually worked with one of their biggest competitors, and they didn't want them to have access to our content. So they bought us. They made an offer of £7 million. I don't know how much that is in US money, maybe $10 million, maybe something.
I don't know. The exchange rate, goes all over the place. So
they made that offer, and that was after 2.5 years. Bearing in mind we had no investors and we started from scratch. And we turned that down, and then they come back 3 days later with £1 million more. So I don't know, $1.7 million more in 3 days. So they had the money. They probably found it down the back of the couch. That was it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm
a dream from, isn't it? And that was my first business I ever set up on my own. Got lucky overnight.
Part luck, luck definitely is in there, but obviously effort and work.
Yeah,
and
this is what annoys me about so many online gurus and success stories. They underplay the elements of luck. Now, it might not be 100% luck. It might only be 5% luck, but an element of luck has to happen for that. Because our company is only worth £8 million, $10 million, whatever it might be, $20 million to someone that sees it at that value. Our own accountants were telling us it was worth 1.2, 1.3 million. So if our own accountant's telling us it's worth that, it's how people perceive it. How does it complement their existing offer? How the cross-sell opportunities? Will it stop a competitor having a competitive edge? Will it, So there's a million different reasons people buy. We were lucky that there was a business looking to acquire a business like ours at the time we were looking to sell. I could do exactly the same again, same process, same products, same industry. And then that bit of luck won't happen, and I don't get that money for that business. So that's how come it annoys me so much. And this is how we sort of got onto the Contrepreneur stuff. How people can all guarantee results. I use that loosely because in the small print it says these results aren't, common and don't represent true results. But how can you replicate a course promising, and in an example of the Contrepreneur Formula video that I did, a £10 million business in 8 months, when there's so many variables outside of that, and you can only control a certain number of things. So, but yeah, I believe everyone gets luck, and I think how much hard work you put in will determine how much you can capitalize on your slice of luck when it comes, and also how integral or important that luck is. So I use this analogy quite a lot. If you were a band and you don't go out there and, you know, hand your demo out, and you don't market yourself, and you don't push yourself online, and you don't try and proactively get gigs or whatever it might be, you might have a slice of luck, which might be there's a local band playing at a local festival and they pull out, and then somebody knows you and phones you up and say, can you fill this slot? So you've now got a gig out of the blue that you were lucky to get. But now say if you were a band that was pushing themselves online, was handing out their demo all the time, doing all these different things, and then at Glastonbury, a band pulls out a huge, and someone's like, oh, well, I heard this band playing at this festival, that festival, and they're really good. They're not on the bill. Why don't we get them to come in? It's the same luck. You've still got a gig that you weren't expecting, but one is far greater and bigger because you've done all the groundwork to be in that position to capitalize. So you're known by a bigger audience, by more people, and you are perceived as a bigger band or a more talented band than that other band. So I often use that. So yeah, luck's so important, and I think that, you know, people need to acknowledge that a lot more. It's so easy to make it sound like, oh, it was only work because I was amazing at what I do and I was great, but no. Yeah, so that was it. So that was the dream. A lot of people say, well, you did it in 2.5 years, so it must be easy. But, you know, I did 6 years worth of working in startup businesses, learning business, before I even felt remotely confident to set up on my own. So
you also have a range. I mean, you worked for a bookie at one point?
Yeah, I worked for bookmakers. That was when I was a student. So just in the summers. So I worked for 2 different bookmakers. I've worked for startup businesses. I've worked for a brand new startup where I was the first employee to go in, which was huge learning. So I did that for 4 years. I did that for 4 years. So I saw the good, the bad, what didn't work, what did work for that. I was open and sort of involved in conversations and hearing conversations about business that I would never do if I joined a company with, say, more than 10, 15 people. So it was such a great learning. And I would always advise that as my one sort of key takeaway. If you want to set up a business on your own, go and work in a startup in that industry. There's thousands of them. So instead of paying someone to teach you in a course, you know, a few hours a week for 90 days, whatever it might be, and it's cost you $12,000 or $3,000 or whatever it might be, go and work a year and get a year's worth of paid for learning. You will learn more. Number one, like I said about the original thing, you learn more through experience rather than online. So you'll learn more and you will get paid for it. So at worst, you've earned money from your experience to find out actually you're shit at business and you should never open your own business. That's the worst. That's the worst that can happen. Whereas if you buy a course, you're probably not going to do it. It's probably not going to work because the fact they're teaching you how to do it at this point means they're not making enough money from doing the actual thing. And yeah, it's just, you know, you are probably on a hide into nothing, I believe. Don't get me wrong, some online training is good.
I've also heard that a good way to learn is sometimes take the pay cut, and instead of trying to become a manager, senior manager, or whatever in a corporation, become an assistant to the CEO. Or become an assistant to high level senior vice president, because then you're in the room when they're making the decisions all of the time, and that knowledge is something that you can't get anywhere else. So it's worth taking a lower wage just to sit in there and soak knowledge.
Yeah, it's priceless, isn't it? Really. And I know there is some truth in that. I mean, there's a lot of sayings that are bullshit, but you know when they say you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with? That's a common saying. Well, you know, if you're sat in, I don't know, the canteen with people that you're just whinging and moaning about certain things about the actual job, you're not going to be learning and understanding things that are sort of above your pay grade, if that makes sense. It's a horrible way to put it.
No, it's true.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are in that room and you're hearing things, they might mention something, I don't know, a crypto investment, and then that might spark something. Oh, what is crypto? And then you can go and do your research and get books in it. You can learn things. And yeah, that's why I went and worked in startup businesses. I always knew or always felt like I'd have my own business, but I wanted to learn about it and understand it. And there's one thing doing a GCSE, like a qualification at school in business studies, which is irrelevant now and out of date. That doesn't beat going and working in a startup. And I wasn't paid much to do that. I was on less money than what I would have been other jobs, but the opportunity to learn was far greater. And obviously I was one of the lucky ones, / I got the rewards that taking those calculated risks sort of justified, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of which, in your own business, if I recall, you and your partner both didn't draw a salary, did 16-hour days. You drew your salary at the end when you sold it, not throughout.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You know, I see a lot of people that look like they're successful taking out or living on credit cards. And when the business first starts, the first thing they do is go and get a Range Rover or a big car and go get a big house. I stuck with the same car, stuck with the same house all the way through because I had a goal to sell my business for a certain amount of money after a certain amount of time. So anything that sort of diverted away from that plan was irrelevant. I used to say, does it make the boat go faster? And if it didn't make the boat go faster, we wouldn't do it. So, but this is the maddest thing about any of this stuff, really. It's common sense. Like if you sit there and think about it properly, logically, because you're not desperate for some sort of results and you think it through, it's obvious that, you know, if you cut your cloth accordingly, you keep your costs down, you work hard towards a plan, you dismiss all the shiny things on the way because you believe in that plan. You work out what your price should be. You work out what your end date is. You can work backwards from that date. All this stuff is easy if you think about it. Now, if you don't think about these things and you've never thought about these things or you don't understand these things, you probably aren't cut out for this stuff. If you think buying a course from a guru that you've never heard of based on a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, you 100% aren't cut out for this. You're only as good as the questions you ask, I believe, right? So if you're on Google or YouTube and you're Googling how to make $1 million in 30 days, chances are you ain't going to make $1 million if it was 300 days or 1,000 days, because you are asking the wrong questions. And a perfect example of that is when I sold my business. It's a weird kind of scenario where now you've had a level of success and all of a sudden people want to ask you everything about business. So I used to be on the school playgrounds, dropping the kids off. People that never spoke to me, their dads would be saying, how can I make £1 million in 12 months and stuff like that? It's like, it's because you think like that. I did 6 years worth of learning and training in startup business before I even felt confident enough. And then it took me another 2.5 years. So it took me 9 years to achieve something that you're now asking, how can you achieve it in 1 year? So just by that nature of your question is why I know you'll never, ever understand it or do it. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And one thing, and I definitely want to get into the Contrepreneur aspect in the courses and everything, but I love learning about the business because this is the legitimate lessons in business and not everybody gets them. One thing you had mentioned, and I really deeply appreciate, is you and your partner work every position throughout the company and kind of just revolve around, do a job for a while, learn it really well, move to the next, move to the next, move to the next. Are you, while you're doing that, are you documenting the job so you can work yourself out of each job as you go?
Yeah, so that's one of the tactics that I always do. To understand your business, you've got to try and do everything to start with, but then you want to delegate it as soon as you can. So you work it in its worst state. So you almost like develop the processes and you improve on those. You automate the things that you can, document it all, and then you sack yourself from each role. Then as soon as you've managed to sack yourself from every role in the business and it runs without you and you can go away for 3 months, 6 months, and it really doesn't need you to be on the phone all the time on your laptop, that is when you've got an actual business, in my opinion, where you can sell it. You know, too many people are just sometimes the worst paid employee in their own business. If you work it across the amount of hours they put in, at best, they are the best paid employee in their own business, but they can't actually sell the thing or go on holiday for too long or can't cut ties with it because they are integral to that running. If you've got that, you're not an entrepreneur or you've not got a business. You've just created yourself a job, which is fine for a lot of people. But if you're a plumber or you're a boiler guy or you go around installing, TV aerials, yes, it's your business, but it's a hell of a lot of hassle for what would ultimately be a pretty standard wage. You might as well go and work for somebody else and not have to worry about tax returns and paying for, you know what I mean? All that stuff was taken care of you. So yeah, work in your own business in every role. You've got a better understanding and appreciation of what each role entails. Then you can never, ever ask someone that you're not willing to have done yourself as well. I think that's a huge thing. And yeah, then your aim is to sack yourself. That's what I'm currently doing at the moment. I'm on the phones talking to people, and none of them would know that this is my business. To them, I'm just the guy that's calling the leads when it comes through from marketing. And you learn so much. That's another thing as well. You learn so much from your customers when they talk to you about their experience and stuff like that, because how they often talk to the person that runs a business is completely different. So it's a good experience.
I didn't realize you did that. So you're just an employee to everybody around, and they have no idea.
So this sounds mad. So in the last business, I employed someone to act as the MD, managing director. So, and there was people in my own business after a lot of employees had come in. So we ended up having 21 staff. They didn't know that it was my business. So they were working for me in the same teams, and they didn't realize that it was my business. They thought it was the MD's business, but which is fine, because again, I'm not interested in that status or online. My job title was never ever founder or CEO or any of this stuff, because to me, that's all bullshit, really. It's so I would hear staff telling me about how they felt about working there, wanting my opinion on things, and I was thinking, this is great learning for me. So yeah, that you've got to, in my mind, it works for me, but I've never been a flash person. So, you know, I know loads of people that aren't making any money, but will tell you, oh, I'm a founder of this cutting edge tech startup. You know, you're basically just spending investors' money on something that's never going to work. You know, I didn't do any of those things.
That's amazing. IAM, is that I am Mike? A little stealth?
No, so Ian is my business partner.
Okay.
So it's Ian and Mike. Yeah, but it also lends itself to anything we do. So at the moment, we've got I am productions, we can do I am content, I am investing, so it's like the I am group is just Ian and Mike. Sounds all right. But I have actually got a company called I am Mike, by the way. But that's not really customer facing. That's for property investing. So yeah, which is funny, because whenever I phone up to sort anything out, I say it's Mike from I am Mike, and you just sound a bit not very creative.
That is funny. Somebody's asking, are you comfortable sharing which industry your business was and what your value proposition was? I think you kind of.
Yeah, so online learning, we made content for corporate businesses to invest in. So they would pay a monthly subscription. The average order value of a customer is £417, about, $600 a month. That give them unlimited access for all of our training resources for all of their employees. Cancel anytime. We signed up 340 businesses in 2.5 years and sold for $11.1 million.
Perfect. I think they came in late too, but that's a nice nutshell version of it. So essentially, you're building a product.
Yeah.
Because you're working yourself out of it. You're no longer part of it. Now it's just a self-sustaining thing over here, and then you can cut it off. But
yeah, that's my idea. I just want to create enough revenue to allow me to do things that I actually want to do. The maddest thing about the online learning, I didn't even like it. I had no interest in it. The model just fit that. That was just the sector that this model that I have for starting a business worked in. So it could have been anything, but it was just, I think that if we apply this model to this sector, it will work. So no experience in the sector, didn't even care about it, wasn't even that passionate about it. That's why I didn't want to do it for too long. I didn't want to be known as the e-learning boy or Mr. Online Learning. I had no interest. It was, if we execute this plan within 3 years, it will give me the funds to actually do things that I was interested in. And I was interested in property, investing, and startup businesses, So I don't even think that was my big one. I think I've got one more big one left in me. And I don't think it's this one that I'm in now. I think this one, as soon as I get it, so it's, runs perfectly without me and it's making a little bit of money, as long as that can pay me a wage each month without me having to turn up. And when I say a wage, I'm talking maybe £5,000, maybe £4,000, £5,000 a month without me having to touch it. I'm going to start building the other one that I think will be, which will be the big one, I think.
Interesting. Now, this is so interesting because what you in effect are doing and have done is everything that is promised in a lot of these quote guru courses online. And you've taken now, I guess, damn near every guru course. You want to tell us about that journey?
A fair few, yeah. So again, so when I sold the business, I was a working class lad. You know, you don't really, in your mind, you think you know what you would do. If I had $2 million, I'd do this. If I had $5 million, I'd do this, and it would be easy. The reality is, when it happens and it hits your bank account, and you get told don't come into work again, which is what happened to me, it's good for about a week, and you think, oh wow, this is mad. And then you think, well, what do I do next? I haven't really got a purpose or an objective or a goal. And this is why people have mental health issues or go a bit crazy, because the thing that they were striving to achieve has happened and they've not got another goal to fill that void. So then you start filling your time with all sorts of stuff. So I kind of knew that I had to invest in a bit of property. I kind of knew that I had to do stocks and shares. Oh, Warren Buffett does stocks and shares and he's done all right. So there's something in that. 90% of the UK's millionaires invest in property. So I knew I had to do something with that. And this, I had never heard of Gary Vee or Grant Cardone or any of these people. I'd never heard of sort of like celebrity social media business people, because I worked in a business. I didn't have social media before any of this. I was too busy working in a business. Yeah. So like The Rock doesn't sit at home watching gym motivation videos, does he? He's at the gym working out.
Yeah.
So I was like that. So this kind of blew my mind that there was this whole world. So I started to watch these things and I thought some of these messages they're telling people are ridiculous. And then once you've started searching those things, you are a product of the content you consume. I'd get adverts all the time saying, hey, do you want to make 6-figure income from drop shipping? No experience needed. Anyone, anywhere can achieve this. All you need is a laptop and you can do it on the beach. Number one, Wi-Fi is rubbish on the beach. If you've ever tried working there, you get sat in the pit up. So, and I just thought, having just been through that experience legitimately, and I was probably documenting my journey as being realistic, like this isn't for everyone. The chance of you failing is so high. You know, you're probably better off in a well-paid job. Why don't I just invest a little bit of money in some of these courses? Because if Chad is right and he's 23 and he's sat on front of a green Lamborghini, I might be able to 10x my income in 90 days, which would be brilliant for me. So why don't I take his course on affiliate marketing or drop shipping or buy a crypto mining rig or do Forex trading? So I just ring fenced a little bit of money. It was about $500,000 to do courses and invest in some of the things that are asking me to do. And lo and behold, not one single course. And this is bearing in mind, I'm someone that's actually grown a business without anything and taught myself. Not one of the things promised by the guru has got anywhere near the results that they had advertised or said were realistic results. Not one thing. And I'm not an idiot. I understand about profit, loss, you know, staff. I know about online marketing, I know about all these different things. And I'm not saying I am the benchmark of everybody, but I'm saying if I can't do it, having actually ran a real business and not having a 9-to-5 that I've got to work around, what chance has Mavis got, who is, works as an accountant, or what chance has John got that works in a factory and has just bought Ty Lopez's social media marketing course? So yeah, so I did it and not one thing's worked, but I just thought the interesting thing would be to document that journey. So that's how come I set up my YouTube channel, just to say, look, I'm going to buy $30,000 of crypto mining rigs. Let's see if they actually do make the results that this guru's told me. Or here's me trying affiliate marketing. Here's me trying drop shipping and all these different things. And yeah, who would have thought it that the people selling the courses make more money from selling the courses than they actually do from doing the thing that they promise. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of years.
Those who can't teach, right?
Yeah, well, it's just think of it logically, right? So I know how to make online. So I knew how to make an online learning platform, and I would charge my customers, like I said, a few $100s a month just to access it, and they get content all the time. Why, if I could make, say, £1 million a year or £2 million a year, and I really was making that money, would I then sell a course for $27 telling people how to set up a rival company doing exactly the same thing as what I do, you know, KFC doesn't sell his secret recipe for $27, and there's a reason for that. So if anybody, again, if you're a property trainer and you claim to make $1 million a year from selling property in Florida, why would you go and host events in Florida teaching 1,000 people at a time how to find properties that make money, invest in properties that make money? You wouldn't, because you're now turning every single course that you're doing is now creating 1,000 competitors, and creating competitors from your customers is not something that any successful business has ever done. So go back to that thing of like, if you think about things logically and with common sense, because you're not vulnerable and desperately hoping for this thing, you would steer clear of most of these things, you know. And I go back to the same thing as well, where I say, who do you consider to be the world's most successful business people? And the same names always come up. It would have been Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. It would have been
Warren Buffett.
Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett. None of them are headlining events in Miami, selling tickets at a discounted price, buy now with scarcity. None of them people do these things, yet they're always the examples used by the people that do this. Like, Jeff Bezos is the world's most successful man, and he did X, Y, Z. Yeah, but Jeff Bezos didn't buy a course to achieve that thing. He just did it. You know, Warren Buffett is the most successful investor. He makes X per year, but he's not selling a course for $27, and he didn't buy a course for $27 to achieve that thing. Now, Warren Buffett's interested because he did actually buy a course, I think it was for $100, which was on presenting, how to communicate better, how to present yourself. And I've seen that argument used, but that actually confirms the argument, because that is a skill that he could learn, he could put into practice to help him get better at a particular thing. And this is why I sometimes get a bit annoyed, even at my own subscribers or followers or fans, whatever you want to call them, because I've recently just bought a course to how to use Xero more effectively. So Xero is like an online accounting software. I don't know if you get it in the US. Sure. So, but there's a very clear promise made from this course. This will teach you step-by-step guide to set up your Xero more effectively, make invoicing easy. It's not promising me that I'm going to make $1 million a year. So the Warren Buffett example that people use to sometimes say, well, look, Warren Buffett did buy a course. He didn't buy a course in how to invest in stocks and shares. He invested in how to be more confident when presenting. That's it. So
that's a great analogy to bring up with Warren Buffett, because I was going to show you something. This goes way, way, way back, you know, the courses and, if you will, the scammers, to this guy. And probably, you know, before him, but I'd say he's probably the biggest target of all, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich, and the whole mindset, the whole secret really was based on his stuff. And around the same time, or close enough, you had Dale Carnegie. Yeah. And that was the course, I believe, you're talking about, that Warren Buffett took. And all Dale said was, if you take my course, I'll make you speak better and represent yourself better to where you can communicate better in the future. Say you will be a millionaire overnight. He said, you'll be a good communicator. So that, I think, is a really good parallel.
Yeah, and it's right, isn't it? You know, yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's a strange one, because there's even some of the, I would call them, worst entrepreneurs that I've seen at their events and stuff. Some of the things they say are actually right, because they're regurgitating other things, other people's work a lot of the time. But so they do actually say some things that will benefit you if you're smart enough to take it in and then apply it to your specific situation. So even in some of the worst people I've seen, they sometimes they say good things that will benefit you and stuff like that. And this is why the internet annoys me so much sometimes. And then some of the best speakers that I say best business gurus, you know, that aren't selling a course, but you listen to them, they sometimes say things that aren't particularly very good. Not all the time. What I've found with dealing in this sector, or with this kind of, the people that are super fans of these gurus, they hang on every single word that these gurus say, and they don't really think for themselves, and they don't sort of process and think, well, actually, he said X there, he said Y there, they're contradictory. It's like they blindly follow these leaders, and quite often they've not even bought their course, and put their stuff into practice, but they blindly follow them and, you know, share their content and stuff like that. It's a really, really interesting thing. But then the internet's like that, isn't it? It's like very tribal. So I've got a lot of people that dislike my content. Doesn't matter what the content is, they're subscribed to my channel to put a thumbs down as soon as the video goes live.
Right.
Because I've once said that I don't think Grant Cardone is particularly very good with money, and I've not met an investor for Grant Cardone that's actually made 10x his returns ever. And I've been asking for 3 years. Yet all his marketing is 10x this, 10x that, and I've not met anyone that's actually made money with Grant Cardone, apart from people that sell Grant Cardone through his affiliate program.
Have you seen the Jordan Belfort Grant Cardone?
Yeah, I've got a video of that actually where I broke it down with the UK's most hated salesperson on my channel. It's a good video of that as well. Really good. But yeah, so I've seen that, and Jordan Belfort runs rings around Grant Cardone. In my
It's funny. It is funny, especially because Jordan Belfort really is technically could be considered a con man. He served time.
Yeah, no, well, he is there's no getting away around it. What he did was wrong, but he could sell, and he knows about selling, and he ran rings around Grant Cardone. Just Grant Cardone saying no interest is a level of interest sort of says it all, really. Do you know what I mean? It's the guy's a joke. I wouldn't trust him with pocket money, let alone money that I wanted to invest in. You know, imagine saying that in a court of law. I know she said no, but it was a level of interest, so I persevered. You know, I bet there's a few people in prison that have tried to use that excuse.
Hey, yeah, good point.
Honestly, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, so I will say allegedly before the next thing. Well, in fact, it's not even allegedly. So Grant Cardone is high up in the Church of Scientology, and he's part of their recruitment process. And so when I've done any contact on Grant Cardone, I've been threatened quite a bit, and it's just that he's got a strange sort of deluded fan base. And now he's got his daughter doing this stuff already. And I don't know how old she is. Have you seen her recently?
You know, I honestly have managed to filter Grant Cardone out of my life.
It's just cult-like. It's mad. It's so linked to religion. Just the whole setup and the language they use and how these events are set up. I can get why, if you're not aware of what's happening to you, you can kind of get swept away with it. And before you know it, you've spent $2,000, $4,000, $10,000. And then you leave there thinking, what have I just bought there? So, and I've seen that over and over again over the last 2 years.
Well, I do consider MLMs cults. And these are technically MLMs. They're gurus, but it's a similar scenario. And I've had Rick Allen Ross on and Ian Haworth on, who are both cult experts. Yeah. And I'm very, very deeply interested in these. And Nexium, it may be the perfect balance of that, where it takes Scientology values, placing it on MLM type of situation with people. So it's not completely surprising. I know you've said before that religion and magicians seem to come up quite often when you're looking at the courses.
Yeah, it's so mad because obviously I've been learning this as I go, so I'm almost like learning it with the audience at the same time. Like something interests me, I look into it, and that's one thing I've noticed. A lot of the contrepreneurs are involved in religion or heavily lean on religion. Like, oh, he's a Christian, he's a good whatever it might be, he's a good Catholic guy, whatever it might be. There's that almost as if, and at first I just thought on a basic level, well, you trust a religious guy, he wouldn't do anything bad. Like that's how you think, don't you? So that might have been the reason why. And then I noticed there was like a disproportionate amount of performers or magicians, and it's kind of just that, isn't it? It's showmanship. It's snake oil salesmen for the digital age, really. These would have traveled around selling like this is the fountain of youth, or this is, Cleopatra's milk. They would have been doing this, but now they can laser target their audience based on what questions they're asking on YouTube, on Facebook, and they can bombard them, follow them around the internet for a week. So before you know it, you're from a broken home, you see people on Instagram bawling, and you've not really got that sort of life path set out for you, or you might not necessarily have a father figure because divorce rates are so high, and you believe that every 21-year-old is driving a Lambo because that's all that you're seeing on TikTok and on Instagram and on YouTube, that you then think, well, what is their secret? And before you know it, you're asking your mum and dad to borrow their credit card, and you put a 1997 course on it, and no one's getting rich doing that. No one's getting rich doing a course with 1,000 other people, because it just doesn't work in business like that. If 1,000 businesses set up today in any sector to do the exact same job, it is probably too late to make money in that sector. And again, I go back to just think about it logically. Just think about it logically. Would you go and start a business doing exactly the same thing as 1,000 other people in that room wanted to do? You wouldn't. Even in school. In school, if they said to you in business studies class, right, everybody think of a business and come up with a marketing plan. If 2 people in that room come up with the same business, the teacher would say, no, don't do that. You come up with your own business. And that's at school. So why would you now go and hand $2,000 over for someone to learn exactly the same business as 999 other people in that room, and then all believe you're going to be successful? I've gone full circle now. Sometimes I think there are no helping some of these people. They hate me for telling them this thing. Like, listen, if you are if you're handing over, that I had someone message me before. So I had social media accounts taken down. I lost the social media account with 76,000 on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Your LinkedIn, Instagram.
Yeah, a bit of a ball ache. But what I used to, so I got a message, and I always remember it. So it was from someone in the US, and they'd said, I've spent $21,000 with 7 different gurus. So 3,000 a pop. So 3,000 calls. So 2,997 it would have been. So I've spent $21,000 with these 7 different gurus. And I've not really made my money back, and nothing's really worked. But what do you think of this guru? Because I'm thinking about buying his course. And I just said, my response was, I don't think the problem here is the gurus. Stop handing money over to them. Like, just if you were in the gym and you tried 7 different programs to get yourself fit and healthy, one after another, and kept saying, well, that didn't work because it didn't work after 6 weeks or whatever. That's why it's not worked, because you're not sticking to anything showing consistency, using your brain or anything like that. So yeah, and I just said to them, like, listen, stop handing your money over to gurus. You are the problem, not the gurus. So, but there are people like this. They just like going to these events and being hyped up and being around like-minded individuals, and they consider it networking. They're addicted to that.
That's funny.
That kind of environment, I think.
I had on Jeffrey Hazlett, who was the CMO of Kodak way back in the day. And he was talking about how he saved all of his money to go see Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. He deliberately had 1 share so he could attend that meeting, because they have the yearly meeting where they can ask questions. And he went through a whole story of how he ran around to find the microphone and all that.
Yeah.
And he asked Charlie Munger his big question, which was, if I had $100,000, what should I invest in to get ahead? And Munger said, put in the S&P 500 and get back to work.
Yeah.
It was like, what? All that money, but it was literally right there. Just put it there and then go back to your job.
Yeah. It's Warren Buffett. Someone asked him about $1 million. If you had $1 million today, what would you do with it? And he said he would put it into bonds, get 4% return on them, and then go back to work. Like, that's it. It's that simple. I say you will earn $40,000 a year on that money and just leave it there. And that's the thing I know from my own experience. The weird thing is, when you've not got any money, you think if you have $1 million, like, your life's going to be amazing and you're going to be able to do all these different things and live off the interest. The reality is so far removed from that. You don't make leaving your money in the bank when you've got $1 million and you're getting a return of, say, 1%. Inflation's more than that. You're actually losing money by trying to live off the interest. It doesn't make any sense. So, but obviously people don't teach this. People seem to think that once they hit 7 figures, 6 figures, it's like everything that goes on in their head and how they feel is all going to magically alleviate. But it doesn't at all. It kind of amplifies, to be honest. I've got more money worries now than I probably had when I was at the end of that business, when I was paying myself a salary and stuff like that. Because that's easy to understand and easy to get your head around and easy to manage. When you've got a big chunk of money just sat there, you're thinking, oh shit, what do I do here? And what if I invest in this, but what if it doesn't work? And all these different things, where Warren Buffett just goes, real simple. You got $1 million, put it into that. That's making you 40 grand a year. Get back to work and make another $1 million. But that's why he's where he is and we are where we are, because we seem to think that getting $1 million is the destination and all our problems are solved. He thinks, no, stopping working is the problem. Look how many people, if they stop working for retirement age die within 2 years or 3 years. The numbers are massive. Weirdly, the thing that you're trying to escape is actually the thing that keeps you sane, keeps you living, grinding. And anybody that thinks when they hit X money, they'll retire forever, that's probably, again, one of the reasons why you won't actually achieve that thing, in my mind, in my opinion.
Well, that's true. I mean, I do find it interesting, though, how you managed to build a business and were not at all interested in what you were doing in terms of business, but you were obviously interested in the process of this is how you build a business, and peculiar mindset that I think works really well for you, because technically you can be a hired gun to go into any industry, since you don't really care about that. You're more, it's like you're more interested in the mechanics or the plumbing of the business than you are the actual what does
it's weird. That's the thing. In a strange way, I like the chaos of a startup. Like, I enjoy that thing more than what, it doesn't even matter what it does, but I like that. How do we get this from A to B? How do we get there in the most efficient way? And on what particular date? And let's work backwards from what do you want to achieve, and let's work backwards from that. So yeah, I prefer the chaos of a startup compared to, and I've just got note, again, it's as long as it fits the model of what I consider to be a good model for resale, and it interests me. Like, weirdly, like I said, the business I've got right now that I'm working on, it doesn't fit the model. So I can't wait to be able to just get out of this one and let it run. It's like a passing trade business. You know, it's bespoke. Each client wants something slightly different. It's horrible. But the maddest thing is, though, there are thousands of businesses like this in the world. You know, if you've got a sandwich shop, you rely on footfall. If you've got a clothes shop, you rely on. This doesn't fit can be a subscription, can be online. You know, does it complement somebody else's businesses? Who would buy it? There's so many things it doesn't tick. But I've accidentally found myself here because of COVID and a global pandemic. I've just had to make do, and I've just put it as it'll just be another business that's within a group, within the I Am group. And then I can get back to doing the thing that I actually want to do, and I believe will be my that'll be my retirement, I think. So,
well, now the mindset and finding the joy in the process is really the secret, isn't it? I mean, it's
enjoy
about
the journey,
find a way to enjoy the grind versus the other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound, I'm miserable as it is. That's my sort of character. So, even when I sold the business that week, I was thinking about, if only I'd got that deal in, it would have been worth, 14 times more because of the resale and stuff like that. And it was like, I looked at things that we'd not done properly and we should have done a little bit better, rather than thinking, I can't believe we've managed to hit our goal after 2.5 years. Again, I don't know if that's what drives me on. I'm my own biggest critic. I'm very critical.
What you're thinking about tomorrow. I mean, it's a mindset, and I'm sure you have that on YouTube when you're creating or anything else. Speaking of which,
I was applying for jobs like 2 weeks after I sold the business, just because I don't like not doing anything or having something. So I was actually again, because I like to learn things by doing. I was applying for jobs at real estate agents in the town that I live in. And that didn't go very well. No one would employ me because they couldn't get their head around it, that why would you want to work here on a salary? So I even offered to not work on a salary and only get paid on commission. But it made people feel nervous, thinking, well, you've had a more successful business than this, or you've got more money than I've got, and I'm the business owner. What are you here for? What's the catch? What are you really up to? As if like I was going to learn their business and then set up as a rival. I just wanted to understand the mechanics of properties, viewing properties, what seems a good deal, what's the yield mean, rather than buying an online course in how to invest in property. I just wanted to do it. So I couldn't get a job in my own town in the industry that I wanted to, because I was known for selling that old business.
Well, I mean, that I can see that, though. That's their own personal shame, if you will, that every day I have to be reminded that this guy here is more successful than me, and he can turn down salaries and just go commission. He can do whatever he wants, and I have to look at that every day, and I can't handle looking at that every day. So
I also think as well, it's like they probably thought maybe they had less control over me. Like if they say, well, you need to work late, or I can sound, it doesn't bother me. I won't. I'll walk. So yeah, it's an odd one. It's an odd kind of mindset that some people have, don't they, around sort of their own business and stuff like that. I don't know. But I think maybe people are too invested in it. I always look at them as like, this is just a vehicle to get me where I want to go. People say, did it upset you when you sold your business because it's your baby? But I said it was more like a foster child. I only knew I was going to have it for 2 or 3 years, so I never really got too attached to it. It was just a thing to get me from A to B in my sort of plan for life. That was it. I never thought I'd be a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, that makes sense. I grew up, I was not a rich kid either. So I learned that if I ever wanted to get an item that I wanted, I would have to find something of value.
Yeah.
And so I would go find something of value that I would buy that I had no interest in whatsoever, but I knew that I could sell it for more money or trade it or do whatever. And that's how I got everything. It's just kept trading up.
Yeah. And they're good skills. They're more beneficial skills for you than learning how to, I don't know, find products on Alibaba and sell them for, actually doing that face-to-face negotiation and learning those real world skills, door knocking, trying to sell, door to door, all those things that I don't know how old you were, but I was like working at 14 and I was, I remember asking for a pay rise in my job at 14 years old. And well, I do X, Y, and Z. If I can do A, B, C on top of that, and I can bring in X amount of extra money for you, can I have a 5% of that money? And these were all things that I kind of learned as I went. I was lucky as well in the sense that I went to, my mum and dad gave me allowance from being 7 years old. I used to get £200 a month, which is loads of money for a kid.
God, yeah.
But they didn't buy me anything. So I had to buy my own sweets. So I had to buy my own clothes. I had to buy my own shower gel, toothpaste, all these different things. And that sounds crazy. I mean, I couldn't trust my kids to do that. I've got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. But because I didn't know any different, I started to learn, even at that age, well, I could buy a single pack of these sweets and they cost 30p. Or I could buy a 4-pack and it costs £1. So I'm saving 5p per unit. So I was learning all these things and learning how to budget and stuff like that. So I was always kind of good with money or understood money a little bit better than, say, my brother and sister who that didn't happen to. And they would get things bought for them here, there, and everywhere and stuff like that. So, it was interesting, really.
That is interesting. Now, I want to talk about, obviously, there's some sort of run-ins with social media. And just to let you know, I'm doing this video now. It's a live stream. And on all of my videos and live streams, I always have another window open. I look, and about a half hour ago, it already was demonetized. Went to yellow.
One.
Oh, yeah, this one. And I've already, put in the appeal. And then after so many hours or day, and then it'll say, oh, we found your videos okay. And it gets very, very aggravating.
Yeah.
Your social media issues, like I think you got thrown off of LinkedIn, your Instagram is anemic. Is this because you're talking about, let's say, Grant Cardone's and Gary V's, who are insiders at these giant social media companies?
I mean, the conspiracy theory in me says yes. Like if they spend a lot of money on these platforms, marketing to their audience on those platforms, they've got a lot more sway and they bring a lot more revenue to these platforms than I do. So in the last 12 months, I had my Instagram hacked and deleted. That was after a certain video went up. I couldn't get into it and it's gone. Like Instagram can't do anything about it. So I lost that account. I was anonymously reported on LinkedIn and I was banned for 2 days and then they allowed me back. And then I was anonymously reported again within an hour and that account's been permanently deleted. I've had numerous copyright strikes on my content on YouTube. I've had legal letters from some of the companies and some of the people that I speak about. So yeah, I would say I'm being targeted, and I think sometimes it's because people don't like what I'm talking about. But again, if you've got someone there explaining how people are manipulated online to buy things that they might not necessarily need, or actually saying I bought this thing and it didn't really work, that's impacting some people's bottom line. So it's probably better for them. And what I feel like has happened now is they've got a common enemy with some of my content. So it's easy for one of them to do something and then another one to do something similar. So I had 3 attempted copyright strikes in the space of 3 days from people that I know do stuff together. So there's certain things like that where I think, well, yeah, they are working together. But sometimes I just think it's like you with this video. even though they know they're not going to win the copyright claim, it takes the wind out of the sails. They can get rid of that video for 2 weeks while you're fighting it and having to jump through hoops to get it back. So when it comes back, it's old news, and it's not going to be viewed as many because it's not being pushed by the algorithm. So that happened with my main Contrepreneur video, Russell Brunson putting a copyright strike. And at that time, that video was doing 10,000 views a day, and I was getting 1,000 subscribers a day, which was huge for the channel back then because it was my 4th video. So, but since then, I've never got over 150 subscribers a day. So he really took the wind out of the channel. It's like he sort of wiped 90, what would you call that? So yeah, we dropped down to about 10% of the views and 10% of the subscribers because of that. And I won the counterclaim, but it was, it not a massive knock-on effect, monetary wise, time, effort, jumping through hoops. Ended up making the video, remaking that video without the clip of Russell Brunson in it, just in case I lost that appeal. Then I won it anyway. So it was almost like, well, I could have been making other videos in that 2 weeks.
Is that why you trademarked Contrepreneur? Because one of the methodologies is that all these gurus or people that you're talking about could say, release their own video saying Contrepreneur, blah, 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 to push your stuff way down the algorithm and then build positive messages.
Yeah, well, they do that, not just with the word Contrepreneur, but so I've done a video on that as well. Why do they do it? Why do they release videos like Grant Cardone expose the truth about Grant Cardone? And it's quite an interesting breakdown of the reasons why. But the reason why I copyrighted or trademarked the word Contrepreneur was because when I met Gary Vee and we spoke about Netflix, I thought, well, if someone took this idea to Netflix, the word Contrepreneur describes it so well. It's such a standout word that I could see them using that word as the name of the documentary they would make if they were going to make it without me. So I thought, because we'd been pushing this word and it was quite a word that people identified our work with, it'd be a good idea to copyright it. And lo and behold, if you've seen Money Explains, the new Netflix series that's come out, have you seen that?
I have. No.
So episode 1, Netflix, I did 2 interviews with them. They were meant to come over to here to film. We were supposed to be doing some stuff together. I was going to be in it as a talking head, and they were going to use some of my content for that episode. They then sent me an email 2 days before they were meant to film, and said, sorry, legal have told me we're going to have to take this program in a completely different direction. And then they pretty much recreated the Contrepreneur formula video. And then I get a mention at the very end, which is just a special thanks to Mike Winnet. So, but it goes to show that, if that's a shady industry as well, thanks for doing all the hard work. We've pretty much ripped off your videos. We even interviewed you twice for this, and you've signed off a release form to say that we can use any content for you. And then we're not even going to sort of acknowledge it. I didn't even speak about money or payment because I'm not as interested in that as letting more people understand what pressures that they're under and what sort of psychological tactics are being used on them when they're in one of these events. So so even Netflix have been a bit shady about it. Gary Vee never did the intro. Netflix came about via them seeing my content and someone mentioning my content to them. So it's been a bit of an odd one, really. No one's out there to hand anything to you is a lesson that I've learned. And again, I'll go back to the things that's made me the most money in the last 2 years are getting people to pay me money for a skill that I'm good at. That's it. So having your own business where you have something of value that people are willing to give you money for has made me more money than any of these passive things that I'm supposed to be making 6 figures from.
Right, and things that they can't do themselves. I mean, plumbers are paid a lot of money because they're very, very needed when they're called.
Yeah. Like they can't do marketing, so do marketing themselves. You're a graphic designer, so they can't do certain things. They can't design posts. Like just charge for those things. And then when you get good enough, now pay other people to do those things for you, cheaper than what you would charge yourself. And then you keep the difference. And that's how you then grow your business. And then sack yourself from that graphic design business and sell it to a big graphic design business. That's how you do any of this stuff. So.
Well, that's a.
Is anyone actually watching, by the way? I can't see anyone. Does anyone watch along live?
Yeah, we've got 50 something on.
Does anyone want to ask me any questions? I quite fancy quick fire.
Sure. That'd be awesome. Let me see. I've had some coming in here. I don't know if you see the comments on the side.
Actually, I might see them here now. One sec.
Somebody did ask. Silicon Valley, what you thought of, what you think of the plan of trying to build the network effect and then prove something out and then hope to sell it. I'm trying to find it too, because that one stood out in my head. Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. Yeah. Oh no, that's me. That's me being still.
Oh, very, very effective.
So, hi, Mike. You mentioned that Warren Buffett's communication course and your zero course are in a different class than Make Money Online. Have you ever reviewed the former? No, I've not. No.
No, that would be interesting. The Carnegie.
Yeah. So the Dragon's Treasure. Any business-related books that you'd recommend that aren't utter garbage? It's weird. I've got a friend of mine that's just set up his own PT business, and the book I read that I believe that a lot of my attitudes toward money come from is a book by Richard Templer, which is called The Rules of Wealth. Now, it's really basic. It just breaks down 100 rules of understanding money and things that you could do, practical things to improve your understanding of money. So I thought that was really good.
Okay, here's the question. He's interested in your opinion on Silicon Valley startup mentality. Raise capital for a theory, try to prove it makes money, and then raise more capital endlessly when it doesn't.
Well, it's the latest scam, in my opinion. A lot of these people think they've made it just by when they've raised capital for their ideas. So having started a business and not getting it funded by anyone else and putting my own money in my pocket, I believe if you genuinely want to run a business and be successful and you're not looking to scam people, whatever, you're more likely to succeed when you're putting your own money in, because every decision's costing you. So I know if I'd raised $10 million for my online training business, I would have paid myself handsomely. I would have got a car, I would have got a nice house, and I would have thought I'd made it. But in theory, that money's meant to be just so you can get your thing working, not we've made it because we've raised the funds. So I think it's mad. So, but I just think it's a massive scam now. You see some things getting thrown up on these crowdfunding platforms that are never, ever going to take off. And where do they go? Where does the money go? It's, I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. But
somebody's recommending that you start reviewing self-development courses, since they often toe the line between useful skills and worthless scams. And folks, if you have any more questions, go ahead and start piping them in. What are your thoughts on that? Self-development.
Yeah, again, it's like self-development works, but you've got to go and develop things that you actually think you can implement in your real life. You know, if it's woo-woo shit, it doesn't really interest me. Like, take the law of attraction. When people talk about the law of attraction now, there is something in thinking positive and filling your mind with those types of thoughts. But you can put whatever you want on your vision board. Nothing's going to happen just because you see it every morning. You've got to actually take steps to make that thing happen. So I would say the law of action is far greater than the law of attraction. But it's self-development's a weird one, isn't it? Quite often these people are telling you, you need to develop X, Y, Z skills, but they don't do those things themselves. So again, it's be careful who you listen to your advice from. That includes me. Like, don't take my word for it. I'm only talking from my personal experience. At no point am I saying do what I do and it will work for you. I'm saying this is what worked for me. Don't buy my odds.
You're saying the odds are better that you'll get lucky if you're, for example, if you save your money and you have a lot of money in your pocket, you're 10 times more likely to get a good deal on something.
Yeah.
Because there's always something that's, suddenly for sale that wasn't expected or whatever. And if you always have money on you, you're going to be able to buy that property or buy that thing or buy whatever, just because of all the preparation ahead of time.
I see that one about NLP. That's really interesting. So yeah, NLP, it's crazy the amount of NLP. So I actually managed to get a script from a property training course. I managed to get it off the stage, and they'd actually highlighted the words. I've got it in one of my videos, actually, a photo of the script I'd seen. And it was actually said, by now, you should realize that this is an opportunity of a lifetime. By now, you should know that, property is the way that you're going to make your riches. By now, basically. And it was said in the final 3 minutes before the price was announced. I counted 26 times or 23 times. I can't remember. It's in the video, 23 or 26 times. It was said in the 3 minutes lead up to them revealing the price. So NLP, It's scary. It's scary, really, but you start to see that everywhere. It's weird, though, because now I understand it. I notice things a lot more. So if you don't know what's happening, you don't really pick up on it as often. So
NLP is fascinating, too, because it can be quackery. It can also be very effective. There's a lot to it in terms of mindset. Like,
it's like a gun. A gun, in theory, on its own as a tool, is a very good tool, depending on what you want to use it for. But in the wrong hands, it's dangerous. And it's like any of these tactics. I don't actually have a problem with scarcity. I don't actually have a problem with testimonials or price cuts. Any of these tactics that these use, what I've got a problem with is fake examples or unethical examples of these tactics to make you buy something that isn't actually going to help you achieve the thing that it promises. So it's a subtle difference, really, because don't get me wrong, we use scarcity in my own business. We have a podcast studio with set number of slots. If there's only 3 slots left, there's only 3 slots left. But the difference is there really is only 3 slots left. We're not going to, on the next webinar, tell people, hey, there's only 3 slots left. You've got to get in quick, because there isn't. Once it's full, it's full. So it's a strange one, really.
But that's actual scarcity. You built in actual scarcity.
Yeah, and testimonials are brilliant if they're real. If the testimonials are bought off Fiverr, testimonials aren't bad. Shit testimonials that from people that have never used your product that you've paid for are the bad thing. So,
right, and NLP, as I was going to say, as an example of one thing, your brain does not understand the word no. It only understands an action. So if you say, don't spill that milk, well, you're more likely to spill it because you've just put an image in your brain of doing that versus the whole carry the milk carefully and set it on the counter. And there was some stuff in there that's actually of genuine psychological value in business, even or whatever else. Like if you say I can't, or if you have like negative thoughts towards it, it's not going to be helpful. But so I don't know how to explain it. If you're not conning,
that goes back to the thing I was saying about even the worst, what I would consider entrepreneurs, actually give some nuggets of genuine great business advice. And that's why sometimes you think, well, just because so Ty Lopez, I imagine most people know who he is. I went to a Ty Lopez event and he said some things on there that I just thought, I'd never thought of that. That actually makes sense. But that was like literally a needle in a haystack. The rest of the day was terrible. But there was a couple of things where, and I know I could have left that event if I didn't think how I did and was the eternal pessimist. I would have gone, I have got a little bit of value there because I learned that one thing, or it's made me think about this one thing. So I get how sometimes they can hide behind that. Well, you did get some value, And
on that note, you can confirm something I suspect, because I'm not going to go pay for a course to prove it. They generally give away a free course or whatever, or a little seminar or some BS. How many times is everything of relevance in that free seminar? And the course is nothing more than just a repeat or magnification of anything of value that might be in the seminar.
Yeah, so it never is. It's never as promised. It literally is maybe 15%. As if you wanted like a sort of percentage, 15% will be talking about the thing that you were promised you were going to be there. The rest of it is a bullshit backstory trying to get you to buy the main course. What I find was if you buy the main course, usually around $1,997, $2,000, because they sometimes even try and get you with a lower product first. But there's always an upsell. Now, the biggest con, if you want to call it that, is between buying the sort of generic course, the first entry product, and then buying a slightly more advanced course. There is no difference between them two things. But what it is they know they can sell to a smaller number to a higher figure, and then you can join my inner circle super premium. But the difference between them two courses, between what you pay for the basic and say the $5,000 first upsell, is not very much at all. It's scary how similar all these upsells are. It's mad. It's mad. And essentially what they all end up being is, I can teach you how to be me. And it doesn't matter what guru it is. The ultimate upsell is, now we're friends. We're super exclusive. You're paying $100,000 a year or whatever it might be, $250,000 if you want to be Grant Cardone. I'm going to teach you how to be Grant Cardone 2.0. And by that point, they're so entwined in what this person does that they end up becoming their right-hand man, left hand. You can see them online. Always the same people around these people. So,
yeah, that's scary. Well, this is perfect. I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this. And I especially appreciate just the real business talk early on. I know that the sexy sizzle is the Contrepreneur formula, which is awesome. And I love exposing people. I'm very into manipulation. And I even have P.T. Barnum up on the shelf to simplify the episode because we're right on track. But I appreciate what you are doing in both exposing, but also in creating your businesses.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's mad. I never used to. The only reason I revealed my actual real business was because after the first Contrepreneur formula video, the biggest criticism was, you're saying this because you're a hater living in your mum's bedroom and you've been unsuccessful. As you would imagine, that would be what a lot of people on the internet think. So that's why I revealed the real business side. I kind of regret it sometimes, but I'm saying that having revealed it. But I know it was annoying me when people were saying, well, what have you ever done? You're just jealous because he's made more money than you. But also that idea that because they perceived to have made more money, that was deemed their level of success, which I found was quite interesting as well. Monks are the happiest people in the world, probably. And, they're not earning 6 figures, 7 figures. They're just very peace with what they've got. So.
Very true. Very true. Well, and they don't have to think about it. The more you have, the more you have to think about. The more you have to lose.
True.
So they're using that. Well, Mike, thank you so much. Now, everybody check out Mike Winnet on YouTube while he's still there before it gets shut down, because we don't know and can't trust YouTube. Actually, last question. Are you thinking about going on to alternate platforms so that way at least your stuff will stay out there?
So this is a difficult one. And again, I've kind of cultivated an audience now that thinks everything's a scam. So in terms of selling things to anybody, I have got now 86,000 subscribers on YouTube, 86,000 skeptical haters that don't like anyone to make money, right? So we are a audience of losers that hate anyone that's successful. Now, because I've had so much trouble with YouTube and the Contrepreneur Bingo series, which is probably my favorite series to do, I've got to put it on another platform. So Patreon's the only place I can put it. But then I knew if I went, oh, by the way, I'm on Patreon, like, oh, so you've done this to make money from your audience.
I would not do it there. I would not do it there. Look at locals, look at Rockfin, but do not do Patreon. Do not do Patreon.
Why do you say that? Just because I'm interested, because I've loaded all the videos up there and put the price at $1. But why would you say that?
Because Patreon will throw you off. If they don't like you or they threw Sargon of Akkad off. That's why he went onto other platforms. Really? Yeah. Now I know you're not a free speech person or right wing or anything like that.
I didn't know that.
Your message still falls in the same category of problematic people, and Patreon will toss you. And they are so dirty, allegedly, that an alternate platform subscribe star was built. And coincidentally, Patreon and PayPal got together, and PayPal cut off the funding to subscribe.
It's interesting reading the comments here now about Patreon.
Yeah, it just now BitChute, you're not going to make any money on it. Rumble, you will make money on videos potentially if you want to put them there. Rockfin, you can also do a premium to where people can support you and pay there. I'm big on locals. That's been pretty much my platform of choice. And that's, again, another, I hate to say freedom platform, but people will, essentially they can follow you for free, and then they can pay to support and get exclusive content, or if they want to comment, etc., they have to pay. And that keeps the trolls out, because trolls don't like paying money.
Yeah.
They're notoriously cheap.
If only Brian Rose had set up his freedom platform, maybe he'd welcome me on that platform.
I'm sure you'd be first in line.
So I could have put it on there. Yeah. I've enjoyed this, Eric, actually. I don't like doing things like this anymore, to be honest. So, but I liked what you've done. I saw the stuff that you did with Jenny and that. So thanks for asking me to come on.
Well, thank you, sir. And hopefully I'll have you again sometime.